Alright, what's up guys? It's Coop with C&T Designs. Um, I wasn't going to shoot the video tonight, but I decided I need to go ahead and do it. I need to try to stay on top of some of these things. Excuse me. Just got something to eat. It's about, I don't know, almost 1:30 in the morning, so I'm a little beat. We're going to try to do this video because I need to go ahead and try to stay on top of these things and get through them. Had a good time tonight listening to the guys. DLD, Smash was on. JSD Supply was on with DLD, so it was a good night. Anyway, the bill we're going to be covering tonight lays another barrier in your way to own a firearm. This bill, and we're going to read through it, instead of just going through a background check, your petition, and that's what we'll call it right now, to own a firearm would go to your local law enforcement, and your local law enforcement would have the right to tell you you can't own that arm. It absolutely amazes me the amount of crap that they can come up with right now. So, for this video, we are going to use the slow down Glock here. That's the unpainted side, but so we're going to be slowing down, I guess. So let's do our usual, and let's get in here and do a screen share. And let's pull this up. Let's see, hold on, I think I've already got it up. Yeah, here it is. So, this bill was introduced on March 10th of 2021. This is to amend the National Firearms Act to require the local chief law enforcement officer to be notified of and provided a 90-day period to deny firearms transfers. So it's not enough that other bills that I've covered would give up to 20-something days or a month, I think, the way one bill was set up. Now they want it to be 90 days, and they want your local law enforcement officer to have to approve of whether or not you can have a firearm. That whole shall not be infringed thing is looking awful damn thin with the way these bills are being put through. Remember, I've said it before. The first 100 days of the Biden administration, the Democrats put in over 100 anti-gun bills. Now, I bundled some of those together as far as some of the stuff with the violence against women, some of the things for refusing people firearms or actually taking their firearms if they have a restraining order against them. So, let's get into this one. This stuff is just getting insane, and it seems like the more bills I read, the more insane the stuff gets, like this one. To simply go buy a gun like this, simply to go buy that, not only would I have to pass a background check, but then it would have to be submitted to my local sheriff in my case, and my local sheriff would have to decide whether or not I am worthy enough to own a firearm. Alright, let's see. We read the title, basically the whole title of the bill. So this is Miss Wexton, who's an absolute moron. Mr. Byer, who is another absolute moron. Castor, Conley, Norton, who is freaking almost, well, I mean, she gives brain dead people a bad name. Oh, Hastings, Nagoose, Maloney, I mean, a lot of your freaking, every time a gun bill comes up, people are on this thing. And there's many more that will sign on to it later. Let's see. So, a bill to amend the National Firearms Act to require that local chief law enforcement officers be notified and provided a 90-day period to deny firearms transfers. Being enacted be it enacted in the Senate and the House of Representatives of the United States of America, which we won't be if stuff like this goes through. More like the communist states, socialist states. Yeah, that'll kind of be the whole thing. All right, Section 1, short title, Act may be cited as Empowering Law Enforcement for Safer Firearms Transfers Act of 2021. Again, I love how they play with the language on everything. Because if you've been watching for the past, I don't know, decades, you can see that the left in this country is no fan of law enforcement. Even when it comes to law enforcement doing their duty in areas to control crime. That's not something that the left is very friendly with. But here it is, since this has to do with legal gun owners. I understand this won't affect a criminal, so Democrats love this shit. It won't affect a criminal, it will affect law-abiding gun owners, so they're all about this. This is the kind of stuff that they love. Alright, let's see. And this was actually going through kind of another back door, the way they like to do things. No pun intended. This went into Section 5812 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986. Now here, let me get my fat butt out of the way. This is the way that this would read. So this is talking about firearms transfers and the different paperwork that would be associated with it. But getting down to this amendment, this puts in a section, because this ended at Section 5, now they want Section 6 and 7. Let's see, basically it will be illegal to transfer a firearm until 6, the Secretary has notified the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the jurisdiction in which the transferee primarily resides that such application pending, and such officer certifies there's no objection to the transfer. So if they certify there's no objection to the transfer, they could go ahead and you could receive your gun. Or does not certify is what they're talking about here, before the end of the 90-day period, beginning on the date of such a notification, certified to the Secretary. So I guess after 90 days, if they didn't certify, then you'd be able to get your gun. So you can stand there. You can go visit your gun at the gun store. But 90 days you might be able to get it. Let's see. Certify to the Secretary that the transferee does not pose, in other words, the transferee does not pose a danger to the transferee or others, or there's reasonable likelihood the transferee will use the firearm for unlawful purposes, and they will decide what is reasonable likelihood. So you could have no criminal background check or background whatsoever when they run your background check. But the law enforcement officer could still decide that, this person may use this in an unlawful way. So, no, we're not approving this transfer. So you don't get your blaster because, I don't know, reasons. Section 7 of this, the application form shows that the Secretary has approved the transfer and the registration of the firearm to the transferee. So this is also registration of your firearm to you. So it's not just you wait 90 days or however many days it takes them to get off their ass and approve the transfer. But once they approve the transfer, your lovely little Glock, your lovely little Taurus G2, my 17's in the other room, all that stuff. Well, your AK, nice little AK receiver, your Colt 1911. Well, all those would have to be registered to you. And how would they keep track of all these registrations that would be done? Oh, wait a second. There's a term for something like that. I think it's called a registry. And before people go, well, Coop, they can't do a registry. Well, there's a bunch of people reporting on it right now. I would refer you to people like John Crump and Jared from Guns and Gadget, who have actually gone through and looked at this stuff. Reno May, I think, might have done a story on it. Yeah, the ATF does in fact have a registry right now, only they call it a searchable database. Almost 1 billion records. Optic scanned, searchable database. Alright, registration of the firearm to the transferee application shall be denied if the transfer, receipt, or possession of the firearm would place the transferee in violation of law. Transfer of possession. The transfer of a firearm shall not, the transferee of a firearm shall not take possession of the firearm unless the secretary has approved the transfer and registration of the firearm to the transferee as required by subsection A of this section. So, let me get this straight. I go to Money Miser down the road, and I say, wow, let me see that Colt 1911. I mean, that looks like a really, really nice gun. Chambers clear, everything, kids. No mag. Matter of fact, you can see the light through it. So, wow, Mr. Gun Store owner, I'd like to buy that. At this point, he says, okay, sir, fill out this paperwork. We're going to run your background. Your background may take a little bit, but normally doesn't take long. My background check comes back within a few minutes. I hand said business owner money. He hands me a firearm. I leave. Under this bill, I say, sir, that is an awful nice gun. I would very much like to purchase that. And he goes, okay, let's fill out this paperwork. Once we get this paperwork done, you pass your background check. I'll send this over to the sheriff, and the sheriff will have up to 90 days to either approve or deny this transfer. While we're doing this, we're going to have to do some research. While they are doing this, let me get that straight. They're going to have to do some research on you. They're going to go through your social media. They're going to go through any kind of history that you have. And if they think you could possibly be a danger to yourself or others, or that you would just possibly misuse said, again, clear gun, well, then they're going to deny the purchase. So then you can come back to me, and then we'll see about a refund on this, because you're paying me the money before you walk out of the store. Otherwise, I'm going to sign papers on this firearm to another person. And then, if you do manage to get approved for your handy-dandy firearm, well, that firearm is now going to have to be registered to you. It's basically co-owned with the federal government at that point, because if you alone owned it, well, you could do anything with it you wanted as far as transfers or anything like that. But no, wait a second, because now that gun is registered to you. And I'm sure they'll be keeping that record in their database. So after all the hoops, once you get your firearm, it's registered to you, and it's going to be awful hard to track what I do with said firearm unless they got that handy dandy searchable database. And even if they do have that handy dandy searchable database, how are they going to know that I ever dispose of this firearm unless they check back with me periodically to make sure that I still own said firearm? Da, da. Yep. More absolute stupidity from the left in this country. And kids, it only gets worse. So, that is that one. This is, let me go back up here and remind myself. So, this is HR 1782. Let's read. What was the name of this again? All right, Empowering Law Enforcement for Safer Firearms Transfers Act. All right, that's it for this one, kids. I'm Coop, C&T Designs. Y'all be cool. I'm out.